past 5 years, the Orvis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival has built itself into the most incredible community. Just listen to the buzz at this morning's draw. And this is what brings us back year on year here to the south coast to fish in wonderful water like this. There are 140 people taking part this year, 3 days ahead of us of just simply brilliant fun.
It's fantastic. There's a lot of people here, more grounds, found some new grounds to fish. It's been really exciting, so I'm quite excited about it, to be honest.
It's all friends, isn't it? You know, it's close friends.
This is part of the reason we come every year, and it's not for the fishing, it's for this social element.
So I'm very much a beginner in saltwater. I've done a bit of freshwater fly fishing, but yeah, my saltwater fly fishing started early this year at the Orvis event, the beginner saltwater weekend, so learned a lot then. And basically done a bit of practice over the summer, and I'm here to put that practice into action.
So I'm here to see what it's all about. So if I can get on the water, that's good, but I think I'm just interested to hear about the saltwater experience.
I've got a lot better since I first started, considering it was my first time I cast a Florida was at this competition. But yeah, it's going all right. We're doing well.
So as always with these festivals, there are lots of people taking part who take it extremely seriously, who are desperate to win the top prizes. And there are those who are here just to enjoy the atmosphere and the social. Both will have a fantastic weekend this weekend. There are 3 days ahead of us of competition. So that's the first time we've ever had that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today, we're at Hayling Island, just down the beach from the lifeboat station for a very special element of this competition, because for the first time ever, we have a youth section. Mr. Bazin, you and I have fished together before a fair amount, but here we are on the beach at Hayling Island with a young Bazin.
Yeah, Elizabeth is two questions at home, the favourite questions. One is, where are you going, Dad? And if I say fishing, the next one is, can I come? And I've been mullet fishing, not catching any, which is not unusual. And Elizabeth has been, how are you getting on? Did you catch one? Did you catch one? No, no. Did you see any? Yes, saw him. But yeah, just anything that's fishing, she loves it.
What do you think it is about fishing that she likes?
I think she's got two brothers. I think it is, initially it's stealing Dad away for a bit.
Right.
But it's the places you go, the things that you see.
Does Dad talk about mullet all the time? He does, doesn't he? He talks to me about mullet all the time. I reckon you could catch a mullet. Oh, we've got a bit of a tangle. It's all right. So Lydia, I know you love your fly fishing. I'm just kind of curious as to why really, what it is you love about it so much.
I like being out in nature a lot. If I'm like stuck inside, then I just get bored so easily. So.
How did you start? What was it that kind of got you into it in the first place?
It was Dad.
She finished school one day, her mum brought her down to a local reservoir where I was fishing, and she sat underneath me, and she saw the line flying over the top of her head, and she just went, oh, I've got to do this. So it was a couple of weeks off her birthday, so I bought one of these really cheap kits, and the rest, you know, she just took it up.
She hasn't looked back. I mean, no. You know, watching her fish now, she's 16 years old. Yeah. She's been really quite intensely fly fishing at every opportunity for
she fishes every day. If she's not on the river, she's in our back garden. We're lucky we've got a large back garden, and she practices every day. It's given her so much confidence, so much. Around all these big people, and they're not her peers, they're not. But it's given her confidence to do things, to speak to people. She's got a little part-time job in a tackle shop down in Weymouth. It's fantastic. So she has to speak to people, and she's just finding it easier and easier and easier.
Yeah, what do your friends think about you fishing?
Some of my friends, yeah, they're really interested. They want me to teach them. which I'm looking forward to. One of my friends, we were talking about doing a trade, so he does course fishing. So he's going to take me course fishing and then I'm going to take him fly fishing.
Oh, look at this. This is interesting. There's Harry Sharrett, who's a very accomplished young angler in his own right, a member actually of the England youth fly fishing setup, and he is into a fish.
I cast it out as far as I can in the current and I just slowly give it long strips, and it took my own fly, that one.
One you tied yourself?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty impressive. How much saltwater fly fishing have you done?
None, that's my first time.
Your first time saltwater fly?
Yeah.
And I know you fly fish quite seriously, don't you?
Yeah. I think it's fun, it's just finding the fish, that's the thing. I think I'm not sure about mullet, I want to catch a mullet now, but getting them to take isn't that hard, but it's just finding them, I think.
He just lives for it, loves his fishing. It doesn't matter whether it's trout, pike, carp, he catches carp on the fly as well. So, you know, this is just another tick in the box for him. He wanted to do it, so.
You know, if you look at the participation figures for young people coming into our sport from the Angling Trust, the actual numbers are quite encouraging. But fly fishing not so much. It's an area which really does struggle, and I think one of the issues there is a whole kind of generation of dads and mums and uncles and aunts who haven't fly fished in their entire lives. So the kids have to come from a standing start, and that's a huge challenge because it's such a difficult discipline. And when you look at the kids we've got on the beach today, so obviously David with his daughter Elizabeth, we've got David Thomas and Lydia with her lovely casting, and to see Harry with that fantastic bass and how proud his dad Simon is, that connection between parents and children is all important. But you know, fishing, fly fishing in particular, does an awful lot for those who aren't in such a fortunate position. And that's another massive thing that the Orvis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival is hosting this year. So Pete, just talk to us a little bit about how Luke has come to fly fishing. He's not had the easiest ride, has he?
No.
Let's be honest.
No.
So can you just explain to us a little bit about, you know, what's led him here really?
Well, yeah. So he's had lots of problems, which in the past, which makes it hard for him to join in, like group activities and things like that. He's got ADHD and other problems and fine motor skills and things like that. And the fishing's really helped with all of those. Because normally with ADHD, staying in one place and actually doing an activity doesn't happen. you normally, you know, got like an internal clock that's going a bit crazy. But yeah, it's probably a little bit to do with it being out in nature, or a lot actually, out in nature and everything like that. And he just finds it really nice. Yeah, he's been out for hours now.
When you've been fishing, how do you feel?
Good.
I think engaging young people in activity, full stop, end of story, can be quite difficult. In particular, I teach, so getting them to engage in a classroom sometimes can be quite difficult. In my case, if you add to that, some of these young people have, as you've already said, have had really difficult upbringings, have experienced trauma, are born with issues of a social nature. If you take them to the water, they're just the same as it is for any other angler really. They switch off. They switch off thinking about some of the stuff that in their lives is really difficult, and they focus on a task.
So George, how's the fishing gone today?
All right.
All right. What do you like about it?
It's just fun.
What do you think he gets from it?
Oh, just about everything actually. He gets in focus. And he can be quite troubled at times, but if you get him fishing, he forgets all of that and gets on with it, and he wants to learn.
For me, angling probably saved me as a young person. It gave me something to do in the holidays. It gave me somewhere to go. Fishing mends souls. You know, if you're experiencing a difficult time in your life and you go fishing, you're thinking about the fishing, you're not thinking about the difficult bit. And it's the same for these young people, and it's the same for all young people. For me as a practitioner, I can direct a young person to engage them in a classroom environment as a consequence of doing this. We can use measuring fish as a way to do maths. We can use writing a logbook of what you've caught as a way of doing English. And if we can, you know, if we could bottle it, it'd be amazing.
So the winner of the youth prize with a 35cm bass is Harry. Congratulations, Harry.
A deserved first prize for young Harry for that fantastic bass. What a brilliant day's fishing. Now, in normal circumstances, that would be the end of proceedings for the first day of the festival. But there's a bit more to come. Now, when you're fishing, there are times when you know full well that you should stay on the water, but because of the pressures of life, you end up going home. And in normal circumstances, we're at that point now. I should be on the road, heading home to sort life out. Instead, we're doing this. This is a brand new concept in the Orvis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival. This is the night station. Fishing from 6 o'clock in the evening until 2 o'clock in the morning, fly fishing in the dark. You've never heard anything like it. This could be extraordinary. So this is fly fishing at night, or not quite, actually the sun's just going down. So we've got sunset at 10 to 8 and the sun has set. And what more perfect example of a fantastic activity could you get? This is the most beautiful place to fish. Sea conditions are absolutely perfect. Now, of course, the fish are not playing ball this evening. There are 50 of us fishing and not a single one of us has had a bite so far, so go figure. But today has been a success for some of the other anglers taking part in the first day of the festival. So here's a little summary of what's happened out on the water on day one. While the bass were hard to come by, there were fish being caught across the 25-mile spread of the fishing grounds. Here's one of the very first fish of the day, a 27-centimetre bass caught by Tim Robinson on a baitfish pattern. David Plumpton's first fish was a 39-centimetre bass, just a little shy of that magic 40. But there were some bigger fish around. Former festival winner Steve Richards signalled his intent with a 48-centimetre bass from one of his secret marks in Chichester Harbour. This one is a cracking fish landed by Ray Kelly on a gurgler. That's a fly that fishes on the surface, one of the most exciting ways to catch them. It measured 42.5 centimetres. One of the joys of the festival is getting to fish with good friends. Here, clearly ready for action, were Tim Robinson, John Pearson, Steve Laws and Mike Reynolds. Steve had this fish measuring 45 centimetres on a fly imitating a baitfish from Thorney Island. Yvette Austin also had a great morning with this 40-centimetre bass coming from one of her favourite marks at Bosham. Quite a long way up from the open coast inside the harbour. You can probably see it's a resident harbour fish by the dark coloration on its back. And here's another caught by Yvette, this time a bit smaller at 35 centimetres. Perhaps the best bass of the day was landed by Jonathan Allen. This stunning looking fish came on a sand eel pattern and measured an impressive 54 centimetres. No wonder Jonathan's smiling. After getting onto the leaderboard with a big bass, Steve Richards added this superb 55 centimetre thick-lipped mullet, caught on a bloodworm. Clearly it was captured in a muddy area, the classic location for big fish like that. Mike Bilson pushed his luck by landing two bass on two different flies tied on the same cast. One was 26.5 centimetres, the other 25. His tongue-in-cheek claim that it should be measured as one 51.5 centimetre bass didn't wash. And while the night station was great fun on day one, the only fish of note landed was as darkness fell, a 26 centimetre bass netted by Malcolm Sargent. Clearly, those bass were off enjoying their Friday night elsewhere. Well, I think you can tell from the number of rods there are parked in the rod holster how the fishing is out there in the fantastic waters of the Solent. It hasn't fished very well this evening, but you know what? It doesn't matter a bit. I've had a few casts standing in the most glorious piece of water. It's been gorgeous. What a brilliant experience. Now, as for the night station, things are just starting to warm up. More people are coming by the minute. I sense there might be one or two who are staying here for quite a late night. As for me, I've got an early start in the morning, so I think discretion may well be the better part of valour. Good morning, welcome to the second day of the Fly Fishing Festival. Today we're at Bud's Wall, which is just outside Hayling Island. Actually, this is a location which is really quite well known in the festival circuit because it's where the competition was won from with the biggest bass 2 years ago, a fish in excess of 70 centimetres, which is an incredible creature. Now, turning up here at an interesting state of tide, we've got half a dozen of the other festival anglers wandering around out here in the shallows. You can probably see behind me, there is not a vast amount of water. Today it's going to be a bit of a tide chasing exercise. I think the feeling is that the tide wasn't quite right yesterday. There wasn't enough water moving to get these fish to be active, and it's the bass that people are really interested in on this mark, although there are a few of the dreaded mullet cruising around as well. So today we've got high tide at about 11:15. It's just a shade after 7:30 in the morning, and what we're going to try and do is fish the tide 2 hours up, so 2 hours before the high tide and then 2 hours after, to see if we can pick up a few fish. Once that water starts moving and this bay starts filling up behind me, hopefully those bass will move in and we'll start to see some action. One of the things about the festival this year is that the fishing grounds have expanded massively. So we've gone all the way to Warsash, which is about 15 or 20 miles that way, and in that direction all the way to Bognor Regis. 25 miles of water to cover with 140 odd anglers spread far and wide. There's half a dozen of us here at Bud's Wall this morning. You may recognise the man to my left as Joe Walker, who was one of the guides last year, and Joe, a good mate of mine and my friend Steve's. We fished here a fair bit together. Joe's actually had a couple of nice little bass this morning out here. He was up at 4:30 in the morning to get here at first light. You can see him surveying and he's fishing a top water. I've actually decided to start fishing for some mullet because we've seen one or two fish moving around. Interesting today, talking about mullet fishing, of course, the whole festival feel of what's going on this weekend. One of the things that's made this thing a real success actually is the combination of different types of people that come and fish. So there are people that take this hugely seriously, quite rightly so. It's a great competition. Oh, just spooked a fish then. But the other thing that's fantastic is there are people that turn up here who've never fly fished in the salt before, some of which have never fly fished at all. We've got a really interesting combination of people having a go for the first time. And it becomes quite addictive. And I don't think it's any coincidence that people that turned up for the first couple of saltwater festivals as beginners are now actually coming back with a larger degree of expertise and enjoying the concept. And that's what this is all about. It's just bringing more people into the sport. Now, I can see some fish there. Just want one pull. As we know by now, mullet fishing, you're casting more in hope than expectation. Right, I've just seen a fish move out there in the kind of riffly bit there. We've got an easterly wind, so it's coming off my back today, which has kind of flattened everything out really nicely. And I've just seen a fish move, and I think it might have been a bass. I know Joe's had a couple of bass here this morning, smaller ones. So I'm just going to switch tactics and try fishing a top water floating fly, stripped back to cause some disturbance on the other rod. This is the kind of the fun bit of this festival. You get the chance to play with different stuff that you don't normally do. So there's my popper, floats on the surface. You strip it back and it creates a disturbance, a wake on the surface. It's supposed to imitate a little tiny bait fish, and hopefully a great big bass will come up and swallow it. This is where this stuff gets really exciting. So the tide's starting to run in now, filling up the bay. Where we arrived this morning, this was all beach, and now you can just see the water coming in. And honestly, this Chichester Harbour fills up so fast, it's terrifying. You've really got to be careful. But when it does start to fill up, all this weed, all this bladderwrack, is where the fish start to come in and just go on a feeding frenzy sometimes. And if you catch it right, it can be so exciting. You can see Joe over there is just sort of prospecting in the heavier weed cover that's fresh water's just moved in on. And you know, these fish, there are some huge bass come into this ground. There are also mullet. There are a few mullet cruising around in here as well, which distract your attention because some of them are such big fish. But this is hunting. This is the joy of this sort of fishing, and you know, the stuff that people were talking about yesterday, where fishing just completely takes your attention away from all the other things that are going on. Your concentration levels here, kind of tapping into that, I suppose, caveman instincts that we've all got within us. Coming into an environment like this and switching on and trying to find these wild creatures living here is just so exciting. Everything's kind of focused, lovely and still, apart from me jabbering on. Everything's lovely and still. All you can hear is the gloop of a topwater fly and the noise of people casting fly lines. It's wonderful. I'm afraid I've been gripped by the madness again. The mullet madness. In front of me are a couple of little bits of shallows. There's a little bit of a stream that comes in here, and there are so many fish cruising around in the shallow water, both sides of this little bit of river. And I hate to say it, but it does look like they're feeding. There's enough of a concentration of fish to inspire you to go into that dark place. The dark place we've been before with mullet fishing, where you know the fish are there and you can't catch them, but you keep trying. So I'm going to go and have a cast. Wish me luck. This is the most extraordinary place. We're a stone's throw from quite a big city centre. Portsmouth is just over there. Oh, there's a load of mullet just coming straight in front of me. We've seen loads of egrets perched in a tree on the way in. I've never seen so many egrets. There were a dozen of them. Oh, a fish just swirled at my flies. There's a lot of fish cruising around out here. Just out here, look at this, loads of them. Well, that was an hour of fun with very little reward other than some tiny little micro bass. Saw dozens of mullet, and as usual with the madness, you can't get a take for love nor money. What to do now? The festival is progressing. Some fish are being caught. I'm hearing reports that the fishing is hard everywhere, but here's a little summary of what's coming out of the water elsewhere. While I was struggling with the mullet madness at Bud's Wall, lots of others were suffering as well. Tom Barkley wasn't though. He was fishing for bass with a white surface popper, just like the fly I was using when he hooked and landed a 50cm thin-lipped mullet. You can see by the picture how early it was when he landed it too, just before 6 AM. Another angler who made an early start was Mike Reynolds. This stunning bass measured 53 centimetres and was fooled by a fly imitating a bait fish. His mate Tim Robinson opened his account on the second day with this 36cm fish. All that action before 7:30 AM on a Saturday morning too, and there was more to come for Tim. In a stellar bass fishing day, he landed fish to 41, 42 and then 48 centimetres, all caught with the water lapping at the top of his waders as the tide started to flood, with his 3 wingmen close by. That's what the festival can give you when things go according to plan. And speaking of things going according to plan, here's Tom Lambert giving a 42cm bass a cuddle. He was walking out of the surf at one of the new festival marks in the west of the fishing grounds, this time at Hill Head. We saw Michael Boiling chatting before the start of the event, saying how much he's improved since he started saltwater fly fishing at the festival 4 years ago. And here's the proof. A huge smile and a bass that measured 54 centimetres, putting him in the lead. Steve Richards, though, was already winning the Mullet trophy after day 1, but by his own admission, he's a bass nut. This fish, being released back into its home, measured a centimetre longer than Michael's fish. It put him in the incredible position of being first in both the mullet and the bass categories. The rules prevent anyone from winning in both. Last word from the scoreboard gives hopes to all of us gripped by the mullet madness. Here's a golden grey caught by last year's mullet category winner Lewis Clark. It measured 49 centimetres and came with his very last chuck after a day of frustration and 1,000 casts. So Henry, how have you found things these first couple of days of the festival?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's been tough. Yeah, I mean, it's first time coming down and doing the Orvis Saltwater fly fishing. So it's been a bit of a fresh start for myself as well. But yeah, no, it's been good fun, good social, and good to get out with everyone.
So Mike, I know you have vast experience in freshwater as a loch styler, actually, don't you? How do you find fishing in saltwater?
I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a little bit bigger than Rutland, this place, and a lot bigger than Beale, but the fishing's been great. A lot of small stuff, but really, really enjoyable.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, we were in the privileged position of speaking to the man who was in second place in the Orvis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival, which happens to be this bloke over my right shoulder, Andy Miller, who has since, Mr. Miller, progressed.
Yeah, downwards.
Do you know, I think you say that, but I think what you're doing this year, and actually last year a little bit too, shows how this festival allows people to progress. You know, we're in the 5th year of it down here now, and you've gone pretty much from someone who didn't do any saltwater fly fishing,
that's right,
to become a guide and helping all the other people who are turning up. So just talk us through your journey a little bit, mate.
So I did the Beginners Festival last year for the first time. Had a lot of fun. It's actually quite hard work, actually, but it was great fun. And then they asked me if I would do the main festival in September.
To my mind, the community that's developed around it these last 5 years is the most important part of it.
Yeah, indeed.
And to go from where you've gone, so as a novice competitor, within 5 years progressing to become a guide and helping other people, I think it's terrific.
Yeah.
Do you know, this is the whole pay it forward thing, isn't it? I've always loved that about fly fishing. I've had so much help from all sorts of people over the years. And, you know, and it really is incumbent on you, I think, in our sport particularly, to give a bit back.
Yeah. It's great to see people progress, you know, come to Beginners, have a go, realise they can do it and catch fish, and then come to the main festival.
you just cast a look at my friend Joe Walker over to my left-hand side, the pain on his face says it all. A pain of 1,000 casts and not very many fish as a reward. The theme so far of this festival has been the fish are a pain in the you-know-where. The people, though, are just fantastic. Let's go back to the hotel and see who's caught what on day 2.
Well, a lot of it's just been in the right place at the right time, isn't it? And was with a great bunch of lads who I fished with last year. And it's a case of just trying to read the water and get into the fish. And even though I did catch a nice crop of fish today, they were patchy, and particularly the last fish, which was my best one. Sort of, I wouldn't say came out of nowhere, but you had to really work quite hard at it and pushing, into the ebbing tide. We just had a great day, but we searched hard for the fish.
Michael, what an absolute buzz for you to catch a bass that size in this competition. I'm so chuffed for you.
Yeah, it's good. It's my personal best now, and I've done it here. So, yeah, it's good.
The lovely thing about this is the theme so far of this festival this year has been the progression of people.
Yeah.
And we chatted the first time you came down.
Yeah.
You'd barely cast a fly in the salt. We saw you the other day.
Yeah.
For you to now be standing here
Yeah.
with a 54 centimetre PB.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I am over the moon. I am over the moon.
Mate, we know you can catch bass for fun, but you've done well on the mullet too. Talk us through it.
Luck, really. All I can say is went to my friend's, Matt, that won it last year, went to his spot. To be honest, it was last sort of chance during the day. I'd been bass fishing and run out of tide, so I thought, well, I've got an hour of flood. Is it worth a go? So I gave Matt a ring and said, what do you reckon? Let's give it a go. So that was it. And to be honest, there was a few fish moving. It was luck. I literally stuck it in front of one, it hit it, and that's it.
That's all you need, though, isn't it?
That is all you need. Just need a bit of luck, don't you? So it was just pure luck, Stick the fly in front of it, wants to eat it. Thank you very much.
Gratifying to know that there have been some really great fish caught over the last couple of days. As usual, the social side of this is off the planet. We love this sort of stuff, and it really has gone very well this year. Tomorrow is another day. Promise that the weather will be slightly better. Hopefully, the fish will be slightly kinder to those of us who haven't had the success of some of the people behind me. Last day of the Saltwater Festival. Up at 4:30 this morning. Wasn't even the first one on the beach. And this is what we found. This is why we do it. So Pete, first thing I have to ask you this morning, what a morning.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, this is so much fun. This is such a great event. I can't believe, I'm here.
What's brought you here? Because obviously, if anybody's cast a fly, they've seen your videos on social media, and you get millions, literally millions of people watching your casting. And watching you cast this morning is you make it look ridiculously easy.
Lots of practice.
We've been struggling to get you a fish, and you're not alone. It's been tough these last couple of days, but how are you finding the fishing?
The fishing's a lot of fun. It reminds me a lot of the striped bass fishing that I do in the Northeast. I did get one, and so I can check, you know, I caught a sea bass, you know, I can check it off the list. I would like to get another one though, and preferably a bigger one. You know, mine was about that big, but hey, catching a fish, it's not always about the size of the fish. It's just getting out there and getting them. It's pretty amazing the size of the flies. I was pretty blown away with you know, some of the gurglers and some of the flies you can use, and how big they are and how aggressive these fish are. That was really cool. The mullet fishery, that's something, some areas of the southern United States have a mullet fishery, but not the size of these mullet. I mean, these things are massive.
Don't go for the mullet. It's just, it's a way
That's
of
what
madness.
everybody keeps telling me. Everybody keeps telling me that the mullet are just, they're gonna drive you bonkers. But I love really challenging fishing.
Oh God, he's gonna go mullet fishing.
Yeah, but I gotta try while I'm here, right? What is it, when in Rome kind of a thing?
Yeah.
I do want to give it a shot, but I'm just having a great time. The diversity of water that you have here is just spectacular.
What's your feeling about what you've seen about the festival?
The community here is amazing, absolutely amazing. Everyone is so friendly. Everybody gets along, willing to share knowledge. That's not something we see all the time in the States. There's some great communities, but to just see everyone so willing to share information and just so friendly is really, really amazing.
Okay, we've moved round to the oyster beds, which is actually the other side of the bay we were fishing this morning. And I just wanted to chat to this man about casting, really, because obviously it's one of the things you've built your reputation around. Watching your casting is sickening, I have to tell you. You do make it look very easy. One of the things that I'm instantly taken by is line speed. And I've been watching just kind of like, you've got this little box almost.
Yep.
Like a little power box. Just off your hip, where your hand and your elbow don't really move out of there at all, Pete.
You know, casting for me, it always had to be easy. It always had to be easy. It always had to be efficient. You know, trying to make sure that I'm not working too hard. I mean, I'm not moving my hands a lot. And a lot of the power actually in a cast comes from the haul, more so than what you're doing with your arm.
Yeah.
And that's gonna help you generate a lot more line speed, get that fly to get out there and turn over. You know, right now I have this popper on. I love fishing topwater. Anytime you fish or have a fish that blows up on top, you know, but sometimes those larger flies do become a little more challenging to cast. And I just really love how this rod loads and how it casts. It's kind of, some of my friends and I, we call it a true 8-weight. So this line really shines with, you know, the standard size 8-weight line rather than some of these like overweighted.
And that's just
lines.
an 8-weight floating line you've put through that, is
just a regular 8-weight floating line. Yep.
I'm just watching that as that goes over your right shoulder. That rod is working really hard, which is what it's supposed to do.
Yes.
But it doesn't look like you're doing a lot. It really is effortless. Which I know it isn't, incidentally.
Well, it should be fairly effortless. You don't want to make it work too hard because, I mean, this is something we've been out here for 2.5 days fishing, and if it was a lot of effort, I would be whooped.
Yeah.
You know, we've been having some late nights and having some fun while we're here, of course, but, you know, it's not the casting that's making me tired. And I think a lot of people, when they're casting, they work too hard. You know, it shouldn't be a lot of effort. You know, it should be something enjoyable. You know, and the casting really should be easy. And that's something that I've always been a big proponent of is, you know, if you're working too hard, you're probably not doing something right.
And I have to tell you, when I first started fly fishing, your YouTube videos
Thank you, that's very
really
kind.
helped me. And there's one little drill you do where you put the line on the ground.
Yep.
And it taught me how to tension the rod tip.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was just like a light bulb moment. It's, oh, I get it now.
when you cast on the ground, you can lay it out there and you can see, you can analyze your line and say, okay, is my line landing nice and straight? If it is landing nice and straight, as soon as you start to move that rod or move that line, that rod's going to start to bend a little bit. You're starting to load the rod a little bit. You're starting to make an efficient cast. You know, when I make a back cast, I want that line to fully extend, and right as it's fully extending, that's when I'm going to start that forward cast.
The other thing, of course, is that the more you're thinking about your casting, the less you're thinking about fishing. And we're here to catch fish. Let's not forget
Correct.
that. You know, you shouldn't have to think about it. You should be able to see a target and drop your fly on it without having to worry about, you know, 10 different moving parts.
Correct. Correct. I mean, one thing that I still do to this day, and it's something, you know, a great piece of advice for anybody who's getting into fly casting and wants to get their cast to be a little bit better, is notice when I'm casting, I still watch my back cast.
Yeah, you do.
I watch my back cast all the time, you know, so I can see when that line goes straight, and then I know when I can make that forward cast. And it's almost become a habit now that I can't make a cast without watching my back cast.
Right, I'm going to let you carry on fishing and stop talking to you about casting, and see if we can get you a bass.
Well, I'm going to keep at it. Thank you.
Well, it looks like there are 1 or 2 fish being caught this morning, some bass elsewhere in the competition, which is great news. So fingers crossed we can get Pete into another bass. I'll tell you what, watching his casting, it's amazing. He just makes it look so easy. I think probably one of the things I'd say, as a bloke who came from other sports into fly fishing, one of the areas that I've really struggled with over the years, like most blokes, if you've got a problem in a dynamic sport, you try to solve it with power, you know, try and hit it a bit harder, do it faster. One of the similarities I think that I've noticed is between that sort of concept of a dynamic movement. So obviously with fly casting, it is a dynamic movement, very similar in lots of respects to a golf swing. Watching him cast, his swing does look like a really good golfer. You know, he's got that timing. When the power's delivered, everything is delivered at the right time. And I think the best tip he's just given me is to kind of look back, look up in the air behind you and make sure your line's nice and straight, because you can't start applying forward pressure to make your cast go forward unless your back cast is completed, just like a golf swing. Really interesting stuff. There's no question of the 3 days of the festival, the fishing was tougher on the Sunday, but there were still some great fish landed. Here's a 43 centimetre bass landed by David Nemeth from East Hayling on a classic sand eel fly pattern. Nick Toon followed up his great day on Saturday with fish of 43 and then 45. All his fish came to an orange and white clouser. Michael Pearce caught this superb bass measuring 47.5 centimetres from the beach at Browndown near Gosport, with a blue and white clouser doing the damage for him. If you're going to catch your first ever UK bass, why not make it a fish like this one? Here's Chris Cook with a 49 centimetre fish he landed at the oyster beds just an hour before we got there. Just goes to show what happens when you're in the right place at the right time. After his 42 centimetre fish on the first day, Ray Kelly's sand eel fly was snaffled by this 50 centimetre fish off the beach at Southsea. Not all the fish are monsters, of course, but all are welcome. And that's the story of the 2024 Orvis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival. Time for the prize giving. In any community like this one, special friendships emerge. There was one face missing this year, that of Yvonne Webb, who sadly passed away earlier in the summer. She was one of the original competitors in the festival, a dedicated saltwater angler who earned the nickname Shirley Bassey because she was simply so good at catching bass. An award for the best newcomer was presented in her name by her friend Yvette Austin.
To a lovely angler called Ray Kelly.
Overall, The main bass prize went to Steve Richards for the second time, and the Mullet award was won by Tom Barkley for his 50cm thin lip. So another saltwater festival is done and dusted, and I think the theme of this weekend has been very clear to me. The community that's grown around this incredible event over the last 5 years continues to get even stronger. People come, they learn stuff, and they pass it on to others. To me, that's what fly fishing is all about. What a brilliant event, and we'll see them again next year.